Hi, everybody. This is just some guy, and today I just want to have a little bit of a conversation with you. I've been watching what's going on Twitter and on YouTube, and I saw that there's a little bit of a spat between a couple of YouTubers and another YouTuber who likes to explain comics. The YouTuber wanted to know if there was a way for people to explain why diversity was bad or wrong without sounding racist. The conversation I want to have today is just about why people are so worked up about these characters, why they care so much. The thing is that I've been a fan for most of my life. I've been reading comics since 1992. I just turned 35 at the beginning of this month, so I'm much older than I sound. One of the things that I remember shortly after I started reading the comics, DC Comics decided that they were going to reboot their continuity again. So they had this event called 0 Hour. The villain of that series is a guy named Parallax. Parallax is actually Hal Jordan, who's the second Green Lantern. And the reason why he is a villain is because DC Comics figured that the character was no longer relatable, and they decided to get rid of him. And the way that they decided to get rid of him was they had a villain from Superman called Mogul go to Hal Jordan's hometown and wipe it off the face of the map. And Hal Jordan was not there to save his city. And when he gets back, he sees what's happened to it and he just loses his mind. He ends up going and taking out most of the Green Lantern Corps himself, uses their rings to attack Oa, which is a place where the Green Lantern power battery is located, takes out Oa, kills all of the Owens, the guys who created the Green Lantern power to begin with, and then he becomes a complete psychopath. He absorbs all that power and starts calling himself Parallax. And his goal as Parallax is to basically remake the world in his own image. All the heroes fight him. They end up managing to bleed off most of Parallax's powers, and Green Arrow fires an arrow at him. Now he doesn't know that Hal is depowered, so instead of the arrow kind of knocking him out or bouncing off, it pierces his chest and he kills him. Ollie kills his best friend. The fans of Hal Jordan were pissed off. It was unbelievable. When I say they were pissed, I'm not making this up. I read the letters pages, and this was a Green Lantern comic. This was shortly after Kyle Rayner was the new replacement. He was basically the sole Green Lantern at that point. In the letters pages at the end of this book, there were people, and this is months after he's become the Green Lantern, still complaining about Hal Jordan. I remembered that, and I kept that in my mind. I reminded myself that, eventually this is going to happen to me. And, sure enough, it eventually did, where they started changing characters and killing off characters and replacing them with, new characters, and they would take out a character I liked and do it in a really terrible way. It doesn't feel good to have a character that you really like, especially one of your favorite characters kind of trashed, especially when it seems like they're doing it for no good reason, or to deliberately sort of stick the knife in oh, you like that character? Well, fuck that character. That doesn't feel very good. People like these characters. They identify with these characters. These characters mean things to them. And it's important to recognize that when you start making these comments saying that people are anti-diversity or they're racist or they're sexist or they're homophobic, you need to understand where they're coming from. And I think one of the best examples of this is actually a video that was put out recently on YouTube with John Cena, where the people who were doing the video gave John Cena a bunch of index cards where he could read these stories from these people who he had inspired. I think it starts off with a guy who was a wrestler. He got injured and he was told that he may never be able to wrestle again, but he thought about what John Cena would say when he's in the ring and how, he's very inspiring. And so it made this guy fight to keep trying to wrestle, to get better, to not give up. Each person is about half a dozen people are giving their stories about what's going on in their lives and how John Cena has inspired them. And he's reading these off, and you can see he's getting emotional as he reads them. Then he gets to this video with this kid whose mom had been dying of cancer. And before the kid can even really get into it, he's already on the verge of tears. And the kid tells him, it's listening to you, made me feel better. It made him, not give up. There's this little sort of placard or poster to the side of John Cena, and the kid pops out of the poster and he tries to keep on with the speech, and John is no, just come here. And he hugs the kid and he's already crying. Both of them are crying. And then the other people who are actually behind the screen, they come out too. This little moment here is very special because, John Cena, whether you like him or not, he does inspire a lot of people. And this is one of the reasons why he doesn't want his character ever to turn into a heel, because this is what he means to people. This is what that character means to people. It inspires people and it makes them feel better when they're not in a good place. And that's what these superhero comics usually do for people. They give them a way of handling tough situations. It sounds hokey and it sounds silly, but yeah, they teach you your morals, they teach you your ethics, they teach you how to be a better person, how to never give up, how to never surrender, to borrow a line from Galaxy Quest. And those things matter. They teach us the things that we are supposed to be doing the right way to behave. They are supposed to be better than us, and so that's why they have those larger-than-life characteristics. Sure, there are plenty of people where this is just their favorite character. And no one wants to see their favorite character taken out. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. Everyone has a favorite character from that show, and God forbid that character gets killed up. My favorite characters are Jon Snow, Arya, Daenerys, and Tyrion. I don't care about anybody else on that show. As long as those 4 characters are not dead, I'm fine. But you kill those characters, and I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna hurt my feelings, right? It's just a show. I know it's not real, but I like those characters. They're the reason I'm watching the show. They're the reason I tune in every Sunday. When it comes to comic books, it gets a little bit deeper than that. Because for a lot of people, it's not just something that they came to as adults. For a lot of people, it's something that they came to when they were kids. And so it takes on a completely different characteristic. It isn't just, this thing that I like, but it's like, these are your friends. You grew up with them. It's like when they killed Optimus Prime when I was a kid. I went to see that movie and I'm like, oh my God, they're murking all the Transformers and they kill Optimus. And I'm like, oh, I'm 4 and I'm sitting in a theater and just, it's unbelievable. And the people who did it, they're just thinking, we got to get a new toy line out. They didn't realize that all these kids had this attachment to Optimus Prime, that he's like a second father to them. And so killing Optimus is like killing their dad. They didn't realize that. They didn't think that. They didn't think that character mattered. But he did. And if you grow up with that character, and that's someone who means something to you, to watch that character be dragged through the mud or cast aside, it gets personal. It hurts. And it takes on a little bit of a deeper meaning for some people. And this is where I want to get a little bit serious with it. Because I think it's important for people who are critical of fans who take these characters, quote, too seriously, to understand. For someone who reads comics, whose favorite character is Thor, and you have, Jason Aaron come in and decide that Thor is unworthy, not just of his hammer, not just of his power, but of his name, and that this is something that should be given to another character because she's just inherently more worthy because she's female. You've taken a character that means something to somebody and completely humiliated and emasculated him. And the reason why those fans might react negatively is because maybe for that, one of those fans, this is a character that they shared with their father. And now, his dad maybe just died a couple of months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. And so reading Thor reminds him of that relationship with his father. And here you go trashing that character. So in effect, you're trashing his father. Or maybe someone's mom would buy this kid a Captain America book. And they didn't have a lot of money growing up. His mom could barely afford anything, but she would make sure that no matter what, when that Cap book came out, she had that book ready for that kid. And then you take that character and you piss all over it. Let's get even deeper than that. Maybe you have a kid who doesn't have that many friends or any friends, and that these comics are the place that this kid can go to at least have something to relate to. Maybe it gets even darker than that. Maybe this kid is being abused, and these comics are this kid's refuge. This kid picks up a copy of Superman or a copy of Spider-Man, and it makes them forget about the horrible things being done to them. And just to sort of get onto that point, one of my high school friends was abused for the first 14 years of his life. Horrific abuse. One of the things that he did to cope with what was done to him was to watch the Batman, the animated series. He modeled his personality off of Batman from that show. And he's like that today. I mean, if you were to meet him and he didn't know you very well, he would throw on that Bruce Wayne act, that charm offensive, and he can be very, very charming. And then the moment that he didn't have to do it, he'd drop it, and it'd be like instantaneous, just like in The Dark Knight Rises when Selena goes from being like the cute little maid to who she really is, and it just instantly changes. That's exactly what he does. It is one of the creepiest things to watch in person. And I've told him that. He knows that. But for him, Batman as a character made him feel better. It gave him a way of coping with a very, very horrible situation. Now imagine what he would feel like if someone came in and decided that Bruce Wayne can't be Batman anymore because he's too white, he's too straight, he's too male. So we're going to change that character. we're going to fundamentally alter who this character is to make him more palatable for a politically correct audience, it would crush this man, because this is a character who means something to him. And that's what these characters are. That's the direction that it goes. And I know that's kind of dark. And obviously, every person who likes superheroes, they're not that way. But for many people, they are. Or it means just as much to them. That these are these characters who've helped them get through tough times in their lives. And to see those characters taken away and done away with and replaced with what's often just generic, politically correct, politically motivated characters who don't have any substance to them, who haven't earned any status, who don't have any real call to be heroes. They're there because, oh, I have power and I should just be a hero. That's the difference. That's the situation that's causing people to react so negatively to this, is that these characters are not just replacing characters that these people like, but they're being replaced with characters who mean nothing, who have no reason for doing anything that they're doing. And so I think it's important to understand that, yes, sometimes people can be very bitchy about it. They can be very touchy about it. They can be very rude about their resistance to so-called diverse characters. But in many of the cases, the reason that they're doing that is because the characters that they're fighting for mean something to them. It's not simply that they're racist or they're sexist or they're homophobic. It's because they love the original characters. These are important people to their lives. And yeah, I get it. It's fiction. We all understand it's not real. That's not the point. The point is that we all form connections with things like this, the same way that people form connections with movie stars and sports stars. And so to treat those characters in a negative way, to degrade them, to humiliate them, to depower them, it's personal. It's like attacking a family member. It's like attacking a friend. And of course, you're going to be defensive about that. So my suggestion to anyone who wants to attack fans as sexist, misogynist, what have you, take a step back and look at exactly what's going on with these characters. Look at what these characters represent to the broader audience and to the people who are commenting. Take the time to ask them, why do you care so much about who wields Mjolnir? Why do you care so much about who's in the Iron Man armor? Why do you care so much about who has the spider symbol on their chest? Before you go and accuse them of being racist or homophobic or sexist, because maybe they're not coming at it from a position of, I don't like black people, I don't like women, I don't like gay people. Maybe they're coming at it from a position of, this is my favorite character, this is the person I identify with, and you're taking them away from me. That's my 2 cents on that. If anybody has any comments or anything, you can leave them down below. Thanks for listening.